Good day, good day. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Jay, and this is Homeschool Yo Kids podcast. Before we get started, quick shout out to a couple of our sponsors who are our mission to ensure that you do not homeschool alone. So, big shout out to Classical Conversations, who is mission to ensure that you not only have curriculum, but you also have community support. They are literally all over the nation, so check them out. And also Basecamp. Basecamp is a new app free to download and it provides community and resources in your area. So check them out because they have been growing phenomenally. And today we have with us Brad and
Marcy.
Marcy. I had it. I had it. I did. Good day, y'all. Introduce yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Brad and have been teaching Spanish for, I guess, about 30 years or so, and love it. It's been a joy. I've been through just about every curriculum known to man and found the best way to do it. Took some time. It's been a journey, but we have a wonderful process that now leads students to really mastering the language and actually being able to speak it well. And as far as we know, all of our students who've taken the CLEP test, for example, have passed, every single one. And so it's just a joy. We've homeschooled, Marcy and I, for how many years?
32 years. We've been parenting and homeschooling. We have 5 children, 3 grandchildren, and more grandchildren. And on the way, we pray soon. So, yeah, it's been a big journey of faith, and the Lord led us through past experiences that we had had before we even knew the Lord. Brad went to Argentina and lived with a host family and taught Olympic hopefuls how to ski in the Andes Mountains. And around
they were 8 years old, so
yeah, little ones. And I, around the same time, joined my mom in Mexico for a summer of learning Spanish. And then we met at the University of Madrid in Spain in college. And then the Lord got a hold of us. We came to Christ and discovered that all the things he'd already put in us for language learning and love of travel and people and cultures, he was going to use for his purposes. So Living Water Spanish started about 15 years ago, well into while Brad was already teaching professionally, but we realized there was a huge need for comprehensible immersion approach to Spanish when you're in the language all the time, combined with Christ-centered curriculum, mission trips to Mexico that we offer, and just being able to help kids and be empowered to realize you're not just learning Spanish as an academic subject. There's actually ways you can glorify God, reach people for Christ, be a bridge in your community. So many reasons to learn Spanish. So that's kind of how we came to be who we are now, what we're doing.
So one of the first things the students learn is called the handful of hope. So it's the gospel on your hand. And in Spanish, we do it, but in English, it's God loves me. I'm a sinner. Jesus died for me. If I believe in him with all my heart, I already am his child forever. And so they learn that right away. And then they go out and they share that with a Spanish-speaking person.
Nice. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna back it up a little. It up.
Yeah.
Because 2 years of homeschooling, definitely like, wait a minute now. Okay, so how did we get on the homeschooling journey and why did y'all choose that path?
Well, as Marcy said, I taught in schools before and taught in a secular school for about 5 years. And actually before that, we had our own company that was a student exchange program in England. We had Spanish students come to England, live in host families there, and we would teach them English. But taught for 5 years in a secular school here in the US, and then for about 12 years in a Christian school here, and really good experience, good learning experience. And then we started getting to know some homeschool families, and it just made sense. And, you know, the thing I noticed about education is that, and I taught high school mostly, but also some junior hires, and before that, younger as well, is that the older students get, the more they go through the institution of education, the more dulled their innate curiosity gets and their desire to actually learn. And school becomes about getting a grade so that you can then get into a college or get a job. And then what? And so that's one of the points I make to my students is, why are you here? Why are you taking Spanish? What's the purpose of this? Well, it should be the same reason that we're alive. It's not just to get a grade. It's not just to get a job. It's not just to make money or even support a family. It's much more than that. It's to glorify God. And so we got into homeschooling, and, we were a little bit nervous, right?
Very nervous because we'd already been offered free tuition at the private school that he was working at, and we were caretakers at the campus. So we literally lived on campus, looked out the window, saw the kids going to school, and the Lord had put on our heart, you're going to homeschool. So both my son and I cried for about 3 months because we had no idea this was God's plan, and it was pretty shocking to us at first. But now, 32 years, into parenting, homeschooling, we look back just amazed at all the gift it was to be able to have that time with our children, building them a curiosity for learning, and most importantly, a love of the Lord and building up character qualities. You don't get that time back. You don't, it's gone. Mm-hmm. And when I dropped off our oldest son at college in Massachusetts and went across the country and dropped him off, I realized, we've had 18 years. I don't get that back. I'm glad I had it. And no matter what happens for him as an adult, we invested and we did the best we could with the Lord's direction. And I have no regrets about that journey, as far as, even though we messed up plenty.
And at first, Marcy was a bit more nervous than I was. And I wasn't so nervous because I knew, based on what I saw at school, and this was a good school, that if we just spent less than 3 hours with our child every day, first of all, there's a great student-teacher ratio. And secondly, they're going to learn more in 3 hours from us than they'll learn in 8 hours at school, mm-hmm. Being pushed between classes and distractions and all kinds of things. So it's really turned out well. And we did speech and debate and sports and different things too. And the kids really enjoyed it, and it was good.
Yeah. When Brad was doing teacher training to get his teacher license, they told him that 80% of the time in the classroom will be spent in classroom management and 20% of your time will be spent teaching. So he used to come home from school when I was starting homeschooling, and he'd say, look, Marcy, there's no way you can lose at what you're doing here, because even if you spent 2 or 3 hours with these 2 or 3 kids you have in front of you, you've already won. Like it's a no lose proposition. But it was very helpful to have a licensed teacher. But then I realized over the years, you don't need to be a licensed teacher at all to homeschool.
Marcy did 90% of the homeschooling, I have to say.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. So 32 years. And this means that you started in the early 90s, mid 90s time. Well,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the resources were way less than, we have available now. How did you all shape your day? What did your day look like?
Go ahead.
Well, we try to start by being, in God's word together, and then individually just have time. And then I've always felt that, the love of learning is caught, not taught. And I guess fortunately I have a love of learning, and then we would do a lot of read aloud books, and I love history and literature. So we would learn history through all kinds of books, novels, historical novels. That was what I really enjoyed doing, when they were old enough to do that. And then the thing I keep trying to tell younger moms is that you don't have to spend that many hours in a day just to be able to help the kid get the basics. If you look at the Department of Education, for example, in Oregon, where we're based, if you look at what's required, per grade level, it's actually pretty minimal. It's very empowering. You realize, oh, I can actually do this, even at the high school level. And then as the kids got older, we would, of course, farm out. We would have other people teach subjects that we weren't comfortable doing. And that's part of the beauty with us teaching Spanish. We're really well positioned with 35 years plus of experience to help those moms and dads that want to fulfill the foreign language requirement, but have no understanding how to teach Spanish. We even have native speakers come to us. They're like, look, I'm fluent. I can converse with my child, but I can't teach the language. I don't know the structure. I don't know the philosophy behind it. And so in the high school years, I found it really helpful to join co-ops where, a bunch of moms would gather and we would teach what we felt comfortable in, and then farm out for those subjects that are really important that we can't handle, and often aren't handled properly in a co-op where you can actually get high school credit. Some of the classes, it's more just like should be a supplemental thing. But yeah, the day wouldn't go on forever. We'd be done by lunchtime when they're little. And then in high school, to my surprise, I found it actually easier because we were in co-ops. We would hire teachers for other classes, and then I could handle core stuff. And then the kids had sports, they had jobs, they had other things they were doing. And so it was actually not nearly as daunting as a lot of moms think in their head it's going to be. They're thinking they have to be a scientist and a biologist and a mathematician and a linguist. And it's not that way at all because of the resources we have available. But there's some subjects like foreign language really should be done with professionals. It should be live. We have a lot of people that come to us. It's like, well, I tried this program and that program was pre-recorded, but my kid didn't learn anything. Well, let me tell you why, because you learn Spanish the same way you learn English, repetition, role play, context all day long in the language. You have to have that experience or you won't learn. So that's kind of how we did school, like lots of reading of good books, lots of, speech and debate and homeschool soccer and baseball and basketball. And one of our daughters created a theater company by the time she was 12. Put on 6
Beautiful.
plays with a bunch of homeschool kids, donated all the money to charity.
They were funny plays at first, let me tell you.
Yeah.
But they got better.
Yeah, they got really, really good. So yeah, another thing about homeschooling is great is you can follow the passions of your children. You have, the flexibility to pursue things with them that you can't in a public school setting where they're locked in till 3 p.m.
And you can be with them as you push them into things that are good for them that they don't want to do. Like speech and debate was one. And our 2 oldest boys, their knees were shaking. And oh boy, those first speeches were so hard. And then one went on to be a national debate champion. And then the other one was football. We had them play a little football, and they were scared, but they got into it and they loved it. Those were their 2 favorite things after a while. So
yeah.
The other thing that occurred to me after we started homeschooling that I didn't really see before doing it is that homeschooling is just life. You're just there with your kids and you're going through life together. If you're shopping, you can talk about math as you do the prices, check prices on stuff. It's really just passing the baton on to the next generation, and we're there with them, and we get to. It's such a privilege, such a joy. There's nothing like it, really. It's family.
Yeah. Yeah.
Indeed. Because you said it, Marcy, when you said about the 18 years, you only get 18 years with them. And just imagine if 13 of those years they're being sent away, which is, that the norm for the average. They get put into the public school system for 13 years. And though that time that you have with them gets so minimal, it's like... Yeah. Like, because even when you get home, it's like, you still got to be in a routine Monday through Friday. All right, let's get dinner done. Let's do homework and take a shower and let's do this all over. So you don't get very much time at all.
No, you don't. And the other thing I like to tell moms is you have to deal with the character of a child and their spiritual development, mental, emotional. And so you have to take choose, do you want to deal with that at 9 a.m. or 3 p.m.? And I'd rather deal with it at 9 a.m. And then if you go to the public school, then you're dealing with 3 p.m. And not only are you dealing with trying to impart what's important, but you have to undo what was done to them all day, the programming, the social programming, the just constant. I was just listening to a mom and a son in the checkout line last night, and she was talking to her son, getting ready to send him to school. And she was saying, well, all you can do is have control over your response. And I thought, that's great advice. But I also was sad because the kid obviously wasn't looking forward to going to school. And I thought, well, what if you could have an environment, not where you're all sheltered and shielded, because we're not, but where we get to have a little more say as to the input, and, train them to know how to be responsible for your own actions, but also create an environment where it isn't hostile, to the extent where a child is so not looking forward to going back to school, which was the case with the boy, clearly. But I think a lot of parents feel that they have no choice. This is like the only option. But the neat thing I'm finding, like in Arizona, for example, with the ESA program and the state funding, which we don't have yet in Oregon, like it would have been amazing to have that kind of funding. But I'm even talking to single moms who are homeschooling, and they're able to pull this off now, and they're working part-time, and they're able to do our classes and other classes because of this funding. And that's just like, I've never in my lifetime seen anything like it. It's like I'm seeing in Arizona and a few other states. So it's really empowering people. And I know everyone's cautious. They're like, okay, we don't want our rights or freedoms taken away. So we're watching this carefully. Everyone's operating with great wisdom, I feel like. But at the same time, to have the freedom to get curriculum. One mom I talked to who has 10 or 11 kids, she's like, yeah, for the first time, I'm able to take that workbook that's now fallen apart because I've used it on 9 or 10 kids. I get to set that aside and get new curriculum for these next 2 kids. And the other kids are like, well, how come we didn't get that? I said, well, the resources weren't there. And so she's so excited for these last 2 kids she's raising to have this funding. And I'm just thrilled about it. I think it's so needed across the whole United States, but I'm glad it's happening in Arizona.
Yes, Arizona is definitely leading the way with school choice, by all means. And Marcy, you'd be surprised how heated those ESA conversations get, between the ones who are all for it and then the ones who don't want any government involvement, and like it gets pretty wild.
Yeah.
I'm even finding out about things, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, I'm all about choice and what works for your family. So by all means, I'm not going to shun you for making the choices that work for your family.
Yeah.
But it definitely goes either way. I think it's something that should be nationwide. More states are hopping on board and finding the funding or getting the funding for parents, and I love that for them. So,
Yeah.
I'm sorry you guys couldn't partake, but you got your grandbabies now. I was going to ask, are any of your children homeschooling now?
Grandchildren are quite young at this point.
Oh, okay. They're brand new. Okay.
Yeah, they're little. They're little. So we'll see, how it goes, in to come. But yeah, it's just a great thing. It's a culture. It's a lifestyle. It's
definitely a lifestyle.
Yeah.
Definitely a lifestyle.
And there's just more choices now of things you can do than there were back when we started, for sure. And I think we're just going to keep getting more momentum, because the more freedoms and resources people get, it's going to be harder and harder to take those away. I think people are going to start fighting harder for it.
They're definitely going to fight for it. Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And I totally respect folks. I talked to a mom 2 days ago who could have the funding, is choosing not to. I totally respect that and get that, because when you're as old as we are and have seen, we weren't the pioneers of like the 80s, but we know some of the pioneers in our state who fought for the right to do what we're doing. So we always want to remember that and operate in wisdom. We have to watch all this stuff super carefully. so that our rights are protected. But so far, I think it's looking really good. And the moms in Arizona I talked to, like I said before, are just really operating in a lot of wisdom and discretion. They're not, they're trying to they have a lot of integrity with what they're doing with the funds. They want the program to thrive. They don't want to have people cheat the program or the system or, use it improperly. So I'm really impressed with the wisdom and the women I'm talking to. It gives me
Yeah.
hope.
Yeah, right. I know. I know the conversations I have always are like, yes,
Yeah.
thank you. It's like I feel like we're going in a great direction with
Yeah.
education and
Yeah.
encouraging parents more to do different, like
Yeah.
not to think that they have just that one option of traditional schools. Like, no, there's a
Yeah.
plethora of options out there.
Yeah.
So, no,
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And y'all spoke on how important community was also with your involvement in co-ops and the activities that you did and the subjects that were taught to your kids during that time.
Yeah.
So, also advocate for families to understand that it's not something you have to do by yourself, and it is definitely better when you have a community.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
It's quite huge, not only for the parents, but for the children, so that they're really integrated into society, because that's such a common misconception we always come up against. Oh, you homeschool, you're so isolated and da da da. And I was so enjoying the other night. I was at the county fair with my 17-year-old, and I was just amazed at God has given him a gift with people, but he can talk to people of all ages. He was talking to people across the political spectrum, across the religious spectrum, at different booths, and just handling himself really well. And so I praise God because that's from the Lord. But part of what homeschooling does is it enables young people to be out in the daytime, in the world, with all ages, all types of people, because you're getting to do more. You're not in a age segregated space for 8 or 9 hours a day where you're just constantly being influenced by your peers. So he was able to engage in all kinds of conversations and religion and politics and things that most adults can't navigate. And it was a joy to watch him handle that. Like I said, it was the Lord completely. But homeschooling does help you to get a little bit of exposure. So I think it's quite the opposite, that socially, I think homeschoolers can be much more mature if given that opportunity to be out in co-op, in community, in sports, in civics, in service. I think we're the people that should be leading the way in service in our community, serving,
Indeed.
yeah, both because of our values and our flexibility of schedule.
Yeah, no, I always marvel at mine. I have an 8 and 11-year-old, two little ladies, and just seeing them go, and they don't be needing me for anything. Like they'll just go and ask for what they need, or if we go to the seafood department in the grocery store, my oldest will be talking to the man, like, I have a question for you.
That's funny.
Which one of these are your favorite? Which, they're very, very personable, very personable. We were at the park last night around like 8:30, and these guys and this little young lady were walking a dog, and they were like, "Oh, school started back up for you guys. You guys happy?" And they actually just went on break because we just got back home, and they've been, going all summer. And I told them when we get home, you could take a break. So they're 2 weeks into their break, like their summer break rather.
Wow.
So it's just different, different. It's a lifestyle. Like you said, Marcy, it's definitely a lifestyle. And I am enjoying it, and the girls are enjoying it. So it's always nice to talk to veteran homeschoolers who have been doing it way, way longer and have, just the experience and being able to see how it has grown and what it's shaping into as far as all the resources. And then become a resource provider yourself. Y'all are amazing. Thank you. Thank you for being a source.
It's amazing how fast the time flies by, too.
Yeah.
Right.
It was 18 years that Marcy was talking about. Yeah. It's just.
Yeah.
Whew, there it goes.
Child. Yeah. Yeah, it's very short, the time you get. It's really worth the investment. And then when grandchildren come, one of my best friends she's well into, watching her grandchildren be homeschooled. They're a little older. And just the investment that the parents are making and that she gets to make as a grandmother. And it's what it's all about. It's kind of really why we're here, I think, or still here, is to pray for those kids and the grandkids and to encourage the next generation of homeschool moms. It's something that's very much on my heart. I'd like to encourage those younger moms that have all the questions and doubts that I had when I started too. Because it's also very much a spiritual battle. We're doing our part, but there is an enemy who does not want our children to thrive and to grow and to have a God-honoring foundation or love of learning or academic success or any success. So we are in a battle, a real battle. And so I feel like moms get really attacked about their self-worth, like their ability to do this job. And they get attacked a lot. Mm-hmm. And I did too. And so it's something that we constantly have to replace the lies with the truth and operate in faith and not in fear. It's a daily battle, but we need that to do that in community as well. So the lies can be expressed and then refuted with the truth, and others can come around and say, no, that was a lie. You actually can do this. You can homeschool your kids. You can do it.
Well, while we're talking about spiritual warfare, another thing that can happen is you can lose your child as far as their walk with the Lord. We had that happen to our oldest, and it grieves us to this day. When he got married, they had their wedding in Uganda, by the way, which was really cool. And we went over there for it, and it was just wonderful. And then they were missionaries in Uganda for a short time. But while they were in college, they were just bombarded with Marxism and just worldly philosophies. And our son lost his faith, so to speak. But what we learned in the process is that he was really riding on our coattails the whole time, and we didn't know it. We thought it was his faith. He had a wonderful testimony. He shared it in places and youth groups and different things. But after 2.5 years in college, they finally got to him, and he started to believe lies. And he still does, but we know that underneath it, he really does believe in God. He's just pushing back as hard as he can. He's trying to live a life without God. But we have faith that he's going to come around someday. And so I mention this because, sometimes homeschool parents can be super guarded and super like, we're going to make this project turn out just the way we want. And then it doesn't. And that can happen. And so we need to let them go, keep praying for them. And by God's will, they'll come around in the end. But there's a lot to the story.
Oh, of course. Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no worries. And I'm glad you're speaking on letting them be, like letting and understanding that they are, even if we do see them as many projects, sometimes they are literally their own individual, and we are just here to guide them, not control them. So
right.
Thank you for sharing that. Definitely. When you all started, because of the time period that you started in, as far as homeschooling, were you met with opposition from your family, like from your close, like your parents and things of that nature? How was that received?
Yeah. Well, Marcy's mother was a public school teacher her whole life.
Yeah, 35 years.
And so we were like a threat to her because this was a different thing. And at least that's how I think she saw it. So she put it down quite a bit, even to our children.
Yeah, which was very detrimental and very, very difficult for all of us because, that and Brad's mom taught at the university level.
She was a
business school and
career counselor at UC Berkeley.
Oh, yeah, I had both teachers, like both parents being in the education field, and y'all like, oh no, we're not going to send our children there.
yeah, it was pretty wild. We were met with a lot of opposition for a long time. Some of the parents eventually came around. For them, the proof of it seemed to be all the acceptances to colleges and scholarships and all of that, which, as Brad mentioned, comes, it's a mixed bag, because you need to empower your children to enter the world and find out for themselves who they are and what their faith is and what they believe and all that. That's so important. And everyone's on a journey. But it's, that's a whole different topic. University education. We have completely different views on it than we used to. But yeah, we were met with a lot of opposition. And that's another, again, part of the spiritual warfare dynamic of homeschooling, that you're just going to face that. That's a reality. And so you have to get around those people that will support you and encourage you in the call that you believe God's given you, and understand why you're doing it, and just keep persevering. But then, there came a point where some of the extended family, they thought it was all their idea. They came up with, oh, this is so great, and yeah. I also had children later in life. My last child I had when I was 1 week shy of 46. Really? So there was tremendous opposition to that as well. There was a lot of fear from family members who had gone through some hard things themselves. So yeah, when you get ostracized, you have to kind of regroup and just say, what am I doing? Who am I and why am I here? So I think it was actually very good. It caused us to refocus, because we weren't going to have the support from these places. So, but
it did open the door to lots of opportunities to, share about what we're doing and what we're about Jesus. And it opened a wide door for sharing.
Yeah.
Which was good.
And we wouldn't be doing what we're doing now if it hadn't been for, coming to a place of having pretty strong convictions about homeschooling and a lot of life experience with it. We're both in the public school systems, so we had years of experience of public school, high school, university institutions, state institutions. We had loads of experience. And I was at UC Berkeley, and then we both got our master's degree at the University of Bristol in England on scholarship. So we had a lot of different educational settings from which we could speak from experience. So our convictions about homeschooling just became stronger and stronger.
Yeah,
over time.
I'd say homeschooling is about here. Private schooling, Christian schooling is here. Non-Christian, private. It just goes down.
Yeah.
But there's a huge difference between homeschooling and all the rest, basically.
But it is very important too to. I had a real bias against public school kids.
Yeah, that's true.
Really, the Lord really got a hold of me on that. And the most powerful way he did it is that our youngest son, who I've mentioned, he joined about 4 years ago a church youth group that's just phenomenal. But it was all public school kids, except for my son, who was homeschooled, and then both the youth leaders homeschool all their kids, the two leaders. Everyone else is public school. And these kids were just phenomenal. They just love the Lord. They love people. They are just phenomenal kids. And on a daily basis in the public schools, they were fighting a battle. And they fought it in community together. And they were fighting a battle for educational things, which that battle they lost because they had no, they just had to be in the classroom and learn what they learned. And so their education, it grieves me that these are sharp kids and there's a lot of loss, things they don't even know that they've lost. But spiritually, they were like really strong young people, are strong young people. And because they're in a battle every day in a public school setting, they became very sharp in what they believe and who they are and their community and their convictions. And so we learned tremendously from them. And I was really busted in my prejudice against the public school kids.
Mhm.
So I really, love
Yeah.
these kids.
Nice.
Yeah.
So when did you all start your Spanish tutoring service? Or is it tutoring or is it courses and classes? Like how does this work?
They're classes
Okay.
of up to about 15 students. We try to cap it at 15. And it's all online and live. And we use something called guided immersion. So almost all of the time, even in Spanish 1, we're in Spanish. Everything is done in Spanish. But it's done in a way where the students can understand almost everything that's being done and said. So we'll show them the words, the translations in written form, if there's a word that, as a teacher, we know that they don't know. And so they can look at that, and then they can follow along with what's happening. And like Marcy said earlier, that's how we learn a language, is just by interacting. You know, we say bottle or flask, or we say pen, and we point to it. And so that's kind of how we do what we do, but we do it with Bible stories. We start in Genesis, and a lot of the students, because many of them are Christians or raised in a church, know a lot about the Bible stories in Genesis, and we start there, and so it's familiar territory to them, and it's kind of an easy plow, and so that's how we do it. Did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I talked to moms about it. When you were teaching your daughters English, you would never in a million years, when they were toddlers, ever have sat them down and said, okay, here's a textbook. We're going to learn some grammar rules. Then we're going to conjugate the verbs, but we're not going to talk. Maybe a couple and so that would have they just would have burst into tears, right? Because it's all about repetition, role play, context, input creates output. And that's how you taught them English. You did comprehensible immersion. You did the very thing he's talking about. And it was tedious, and it's hard, and it's a lengthy process. It's not easy. It's actually harder for a teacher to do this method, but it works. And so within the first 10 minutes of the first class in Spanish 1, we're just saying, hola, me llamo Marcia. ¿Cómo te llamas? And then we repeat and ask the next kid. And after about 10 times, the kids are like, oh, they're asking my name. Oh, okay, I can do this. Me llamo Marcia. And it was and then you just go from there in the same way you did, with your toddler. And so it's much more work for the teacher, but it's much more effective. And we do it in a way that's live. And because we're online, I'm looking at you right now, and once we get a little bit further on, beyond being able to say what your name is, I could start asking you, well, tell me about that artwork behind you. What drew you to that? Or on that bookshelf, what do you like to read? Or we'll have a time where everyone go grab your animal, get your pet, let's regroup in 2 minutes. Or we could have a guest speaker from Venezuela join us. Or we could take the camera, the ones that are detached, and go outside, like when we're in Mexico on a mission trip, and interview orphans in Mexico who we're working with. Well, let's talk about it. So the online format, apart from the approach we use, the online format has become an open door to way more creativity than when we were in the building, the classroom.
When we started teaching, everything was done in a classroom, even for homeschoolers, like what we're doing here. And then I started experimenting with online, and I was quite skeptical of it at first. I thought, how are they going to get as much impact as they would in the classroom? And as I went on, I started to realize, wait a minute, they're actually learning more this way. And it was proven out in tests I would give them. And I'd say that was true of 95% of the students would learn more in an online format than in a regular class format. But there were the 5% who wouldn't. And the 5% who wouldn't learn more were the ones who really didn't want to be there anyway. Thankfully, there's homeschooling, and there aren't very many students like that. So for 95% of students, they learn a lot more this way than they do in a traditional brick and mortar classroom.
Yeah. And we can record the classes as well, which is really nice. And then the chat box is like your whiteboard. So the teacher can be typing out and the students can see and write down, and then they can type in questions and the class can still be happening, but it's not interrupting, and things are documented so much better. And so people can, and then we can have families that are, at a debate tournament, and literally the kids will get on their laptop in their car during a break between debate sessions and do class. And then they jump back to debate, or they're on a family vacation. They can just grab the computer as long as they have internet. Or they can, skip a week and they have a month to turn in homework and they can watch a recording of the class. So there's the flexibility.
Or they can join a different class that meets on a different day and do it that way too.
Yeah.
How long are their classes?
90 minutes once a week. And there's about 3 hours of homework. That depends on each student. Some like to take more time, some less, but usually about 3 hours of homework for each week.
Okay. How long do the classes last? Like 8-10 weeks?
30 weeks.
30. Oh, okay.
30 or 31.
Yeah. So we basically do the academic year. We'll begin the middle of September and we'll go till the middle of May. And then, we take breaks at Thanksgiving and Christmas. And our spring break is the Mexico mission trip. We offer 2 trips a year, which are not at all.
Wow.
They're family-friendly trips. We're one of the few organizations I've seen that does this. So we have little kids all the way through grandparents coming on the trip. You can go as a whole family, or a child can come on their own. We have usually at least 9 adults in a group of 40. So there's plenty of chaperones. And then we work at 2 different locations in Baja California, Mexico, which is fortunately, generally very safe part of Mexico. It's mainly tourism and agriculture. So we haven't had issues that some parts of Mexico were dealing with drug dealers and, there's a lot of bad stuff going on in some places, but we've been going for over 15 years to one of the locations. And
that is the coolest experience when the students get down there, usually with some other family members too. And they realize, wait a minute, I can talk to these kids. I can actually meet them and have a little conversation. Or if they're higher up, they actually conduct the classes themselves.
Yeah.
We do science classes down there for these orphan kids. And students will have a whole PowerPoint presentation, all in Spanish, very high level. And these are, my upper level students. Yeah. And it's fabulous. And they'll do about 8 classes a day.
They'll teach K through 12 at a school with 330 kids, where their science curriculum and resources is very limited in Mexico. So every year we bring in science. For example, this last year, this gal who's upper level student, Libby, she created a whole PowerPoint presentation on DNA and with experiments and labs. So she had kindergartners separating out the DNA of a strawberry, teaching them how to extract and see where the DNA was, all the way up through seniors in high school, where she was getting a little more complex. And every day there was experiments and teaching. And to be able to do that and be 17 years old is pretty phenomenal. Not only Spanish learning wise, but also just what she got to impart. And the way she got to see God use her was life-changing. And so we are thrilled about the opportunities we get to take kids to Mexico. It's really cool. It's kind of our...
That sounds beautiful.
Yeah. One of the teachers is in Ecuador. He married an Ecuadorian gal. And he was a former student of mine when I taught at the Christian high school. And now he's down there. He teaches classes from the jungle in Ecuador.
Oh, nice.
He's a pastor as well.
Yeah, amazing guy. And another gentleman who's just joining us this year as a teacher for the first time. He's a dual citizenship in Mexico. His parents were missionaries in Mexico, so he has a Mexican and a U.S. citizenship. And he's married to a lovely lady, has a 1-year-old daughter, and is a principal at a school that's an orphanage. And so he'll be teaching one class for us before he starts his school day down there. And he's planning on taking his camera and going around campus, interviewing kids, videotaping for the students to understand his life in Mexico and what the culture is like there. So there's a real richness and depth we're excited about with the teaching staff and the two of us as well teaching. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. With your homeschool, did you all do immersion? Like, are your children bilingual? Do they know how to speak Spanish real good? Do they know how to speak Spanish real good?
Yeah, well, we started out, Marcy and I spoke Spanish, and we thought we would just do Spanish around the table once a week, dinner table or something. And we just didn't have the discipline to do it.
Oh, okay.
So it didn't get too far. The one thing we would do is we'd tell each other, we'd use the code word helado. Let's go get some ice cream. And so that was the first word they learned. They learned ice cream in Spanish. But then they went through our classes, and they became good speakers. They're all good speakers.
But they never learned Spanish until we started teaching it professionally, which is so sad to say. And we just didn't make it happen.
I have to say that one of the things I tell my students is, you don't need us. You don't need this program. If you are very highly disciplined, you can find resources online and use them, or even just have a Spanish and an English Bible and just go through and back and forth and listen to the Spanish. You can do that. You can do all of that. You can learn a foreign language online now. So you don't need us in that sense. The only way that we're really needed is because without us, people just don't do it. That same thing for us. We didn't do it. We're natives, we're fluent speakers, but we didn't get with the program and teach our own kids how to do it. And here we are homeschooling. So, I see that quite a bit. I tell students, you don't need us, but you do really.
Yeah.
Because unless you're super disciplined, some people can do it. Some can actually manage to learn a language on their own.
Yeah. And the other beauty about Spanish is there's 3 world languages now, Mandarin, Chinese, English, and Spanish. Those are our 3 top languages. Mandarin's very hard to learn. English is tough, but we get to learn it here. And Spanish is much easier to learn than English, much easier. And so I always encourage people, learn Spanish, and you can use it all the time. Everywhere we live across the United States now. I mean, Arizona, especially Florida. We have a lot of families in Florida, California, where we both come from, and even in Oregon, where we live, even in Indianapolis, where my daughter is a nurse, a pediatric nurse. And it's amazing how many times she stepped in and translated for patients. They didn't have a translator there. And my son at the county fair, the other night, able to speak Spanish.
One subtle thing that I've noticed is that if you're walking on a sidewalk and you see some Hispanics coming the other direction, if they see a gringo, white people like us, walking toward them, usually they'll look away or they'll look down. But if I say to them, "Buenas tardes," good afternoon, or something, if I just say something in Spanish to them, they light up, and we can even start having a conversation right there on the sidewalk. And it just opens amazing doors. Somebody, I don't recall who it was, said that knowing another language is opening up a whole new world. And that's really true.
Yeah,
it really does. I would tell y'all, I took a lot of Spanish.
Did you? How did that go for you?
It didn't go well. It didn't go well, guys. Not at all. And with me living in Arizona now, it's like I tell people that's my biggest school regret. Like I didn't take it seriously. I was being, made to take it, and I had no discipline at that time at all, Brad. I was not disciplined in anything for real. But so it was a lot of years for nothing. I do have a neighbor who was a Spanish speaker, and I always, throw my hola and my buenos dias or buenas noches, like, my little basic things, but I should know way more. I should know way more than I know. And I'm always telling them, like, just teach me, guys. Like,
Yeah.
and I hope that with us being here, especially with my girls, the immersion would be there. Like we go to the playground and there's a lot of kids who speak Spanish and only Spanish. So the girls have to
Yeah.
like, adapt to that and things. But
Mhm.
oh yeah,
Well,
I
we know
didn't
a
do it
program for
right.
you.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
right? I know, right? I
Yeah,
know.
when your girls are a
And
little
parents and grandparents are free in what we do as well. So we have
Okay.
a lot of parents who will watch what their children are doing. They learn along the way. And then we have some parents and just some adults who pay for the program and do it like a regular program, including we had a dentist who did it for several years, and she went down to Mexico with us on the mission trip. How many times?
two or
Two
three
times? Two or
times
three
with
times.
different kids. Yeah.
And she got to use her dental skills down there.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I got to assist her. I got to be a dental hygienist for a day, which was super duper fun. But yeah, it's all about how you learn the language. Our high school language experiences were just textbook approach, didn't work. The only thing that rescued us was living overseas, like we mentioned. So we try in the classroom to simulate a full immersion experience, and in the homework, full immersion. And one of the homework components is actually talking to a native speaker every week for at least 15 minutes. And we provide like 600 conversation starter questions. So you could go with your girls to the park equipped with conversation questions and talk to those kids or an adult every week, like have a regular person you talk to. And you'd be amazed at how much your children would learn Spanish just from that one component. If you only did that. But when you have the structure of a class that's building upon layers of foundation upon foundation, it's kind of like learning math in the sense that you can't cram it. You have to learn piece by piece. And then you practice and you really get it. And your girls do need to know the language, just like our kids here in Oregon need to know it. And across the nation, we have a lot of Hispanic folks, awesome people with a lot of, I have a lot of shared values with most of the folks I meet. And once you can speak their language, it just opens a door. I get to go each week to a harvest share food program where about 60% of our clients are Hispanic, and I get to just offer to pray. And because I can speak the language, I get to form friendships and a level of confidence or trust that would be very hard in English, or impossible, because some of them don't speak any English. And that's just such a privilege to enter in that world cross-culturally, and language does that. It bridges a gap that can't be done otherwise. And so culturally, we want young people to learn about other peoples and cultures, not only the language. So we do a lot of teaching about cultures of Spanish-speaking countries. And they have to do recipes and create food that they present online and have to say the whole recipe in Spanish, country reports, different things in class.
We sing worship songs in Spanish, which some of the songs, wow, they really move me. Our guy down in Ecuador is finding those for us, and just beautiful worship songs. We pray together and really get to know the students. The beautiful point in the course of the year for me as a teacher with Spanish 1 is when the students start saying, I got this issue going on. Can you pray? And so we all pray together, and it becomes a kind of like a family in a way.
Nice.
Yeah, friendships form. And then when we take the mission trips, Mexico, those trips begin and end at the San Diego airport. So our students are coming from all over the United States, and we have Zoom meetings like this before the trip to prepare. And then when we get down there and meet, it's just so special. And you have friendships that
it's like, you're really that tall or that short. Oh, that's what you look like.
Yeah, in person, it's super fun. But some of our best friends, we were best friends because we met on the mission field. We met on a mission trip, and there's just nothing like that experience. The depth of what you go through together, it's so rich. And the empowering of young people to realize that God can use them and that they can use their language skills, the light bulb really goes on. And then almost everybody after that trip is like, sign me up for next year. Or the parents and people who hadn't learned any yet, I need to know Spanish. They get really pretty excited. So that's been a joy. Done that for a lot of years.
Well, I appreciate you guys and what you have built and what you all are providing for families. Brad, you convinced me that it wasn't my fault that I didn't learn Spanish. It was my teachers. Okay. I received that from this conversation. Okay. It wasn't mine. They didn't do enough. They didn't have me talking enough. Like they didn't do it. So thank you. Thank you. Like you have freed me. You have freed me. Where do we find your classes and how do we get in contact with you all?
Can I share my screen? Is that?
Can you? Well, we have listeners too, so you may want to know that you could just say it, and I'm going to have it in the description anyways.
Sure.
Thank you.
It's Living Waters with an S at the end, Spanish. So there's two S's next to each other. livingwatersspanish.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, and it'll be available in the description as well.
Yeah, and our website has 2 short videos on the homepage that do a great job explaining who we are, what we do, and what families and students think about us.
And there's a link to the mission trips in there as well, and videos of the mission trips.
Yeah, and we are direct providers with ESA as well, which we've worked very hard to get to that status.
Oh, I already know.
Yeah, it's quite a system. So the classes can be fully funded, which is just remarkable for folks in Arizona to get to take advantage of this. It's such an amazing opportunity. And there's still room in some classes. Most of our classes are full, but
we'll make more classes if there's demand enough.
We will start in a month, less than a month. So I'd say anyone who's interested should contact us soon. And I guess we can put our phone number with you somehow, posted or whatever.
Indeed. And 2 more things before I let you guys go. With all that you do and all that you're pouring out, y'all are traveling, doing mission trips, teaching Spanish, got grandbabies now. How do you all self-care? How do you make sure that you stay replenished, rejuvenated, and, vibrant, keeping it moving?
My favorite time of the day is the morning when I wake up. And if I don't get distracted doing social media or something, what I do is I turn the Bible on and listen to it. And I just close my eyes, and it's just a beautiful moment. And the Holy Spirit comes, and it's like a washing, washing in the Word is literally what it is. And I feel like my whole body inside and out is just washed, and get this this glow of the Holy Spirit, and that really helps me to get through the day.
Nice. That's beautiful.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing. Just time with Jesus in His Word. This morning I was reading about Esther and Mordecai saying to her, for such a time as this, you may think, you can hide out in the palace, but what if God brought you here in this time of history for this moment, and this is your moment to act? And so things like that, words like that, empower my day. And then I can think about, God, what do you have for me today? And nothing is an accident. Like our whole life story, we tell this to students, our whole life story, we didn't know what was going on, but the Lord was using all kinds of different experiences in our lives. And then suddenly we turned around, we found Jesus, turned around, and He said, now, look at what I'm going to do with all those years. Look how I'm going to lead you forward here, because none of what we're doing was our idea. We're not that smart. But He
when I am weak, then I am strong, and His strength, He is strength through us, in our weakness He shines.
That's how we self-care.
Nice. Thank you for sharing that. And 3 things you would want to leave listeners with if they didn't hear anything else during this conversation, and you both can give me 3. What's 3 things you want to leave them with and make sure that they take away?
That God loves you. You have tremendous value. You're made in God's image, the Imago Dei. And don't be discouraged. Anybody can homeschool, and we're here to help in the area of Spanish.
And I'd say
Thank you.
focus on what's unseen rather than what is seen. And God knows the heart.
All right. Thank y'all so much for that. Y'all are beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for continuing to serve. Like, thank you. Because after 32 years of putting in work, it's like, oh, you guys want to still keep going?
Yeah, trying to do it for as long as we can.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
You have a beautiful heart, beautiful spirit.
Yeah.
I really appreciate what you're doing and getting information out to folks to help them be encouraged so they don't feel alone.
Of course, of course. And that's what it's all about, because our journey was never meant to be done alone. We are all connected in some way, and we should stay connected. So by all means, parents, if you are looking to immerse your children in different languages, which 2025, everybody needs to be speaking something like other than English, definitely. Definitely take advantage of the resources that are available. Marcy and Brad are here to support and encourage, and they also want to teach you for free. So you sign your babies up and you get lessons too. So that's awesome. I will tell you, I drove through Oregon. Oregon's beautiful. We went up to Washington. We had an expo in Washington this year. I was scared about those mountains, driving that good old 1991 RV up and down those mountains. But we made it.
Yeah.
We made it. Okay. But thank you guys. Thank y'all so much for all that you're doing. And thank you. Thank you. And families, homeschool your kids.
Awesome.
Thank you, Jay.